TheMesh.tv, an online network of original free audio and video shows based out of Western North Carolina, reaching the entire world. Listen and watch through iTunes or through the website TheMesh.tv.
What's up, Internet, and welcome to the RealTailgate.com College Football Hangout, sponsored by Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue. Log on to RealTailgate.com for promotions, a list of locations, archived editions of this hangout, and download the RealTailgate.com College Football Podcast. Stop by any location and pick up the Tailgate Special, because it's just not a tailgate without the barbecue, and apparently it's just not bowl season without Duke football, but we'll get into that in just a minute. Let's meet our team tonight, guys. Brian Barber, Tar Heel Blog. What's going on, man?
Just here to say that my opinions are my own, and they're probably stupid.
Matt Purdy from SCACCHoops.com.
I'm just excited for the fourth and fifth best teams in the state to play this weekend.
Yeah, let's. That may be a little bit aggressive there. Mike Maniscalco, co-host of the World's Strongest Morning Show on 620 The Buzz.
Thank you, and I like this movie a lot better when it starred Sean Penn and Robert Duvall and was called Colors.
And once again, back is the incredible James Carl, Riddick and Reynolds podcast.
Hey guys, good to be back. I just dropped my keys on the floor here. Let me just pick those up real quick. Sorry. It's good to be back. It's good to be back.
It's good to have you, man. I'm your host, Ben Swain, and our technical producer is Talking Moose Media. So let's talk about some football here, guys. So Inner Sandman was no match for David Cutcliffe's steel curtain defense as Duke goes into Lane Stadium and kind of stumbles away. Bowl eligible for the second straight year. Is this Duke team good, or is Virginia Tech just not very good, guys?
Well, I think this Duke team is good, and 6 wins at this point of the year is not a fluke, Ben. And guys, you know this. They're not the best team in the ACC, and if we want to stack them up with everything, but they're for real, and they're winning games in different ways. I think that's the sign of a good team. They're not just all scoring 50 points like we expected David Cutcliffe's team to do. They put a defense out on the field, and I know that Virginia Tech's offense can be garbage at times, but they still had to make plays. And to go on the road and win in Blacksburg, even if that offense isn't that good for Frank Beamer, that was a big win for this program. And everybody, and Ben, you've heard this for a while. Where's David Cutcliffe's signature win? Well, there it was in Blacksburg on Saturday.
Do you think it takes anything away from that signature win, though, that both teams didn't play very well necessarily?
You can go ahead, Brian.
I thought, we learned from the SEC, defensive struggles are great games, and they're just sign of two great teams battling each other.
Alabama, LSU, remember that a couple of years ago? Sorry about that, but everybody thought I thought it was a good game. I know that they played poor, but I'm with Brian. I mean, doesn't care how you get the win, just get the win.
I actually think that winning games while playing your worst is probably the best sign. Both teams played poorly, but Duke still won, and you can see they didn't play that great, at least offensively, and I think that just makes an even stronger point to where they are in their program right now.
My opinions on this are limited since I was off camping, trying to avoid NC State facing Florida State, and so I did not also see Duke face Virginia Tech. But you do have to give a lot of credit to the Blue Devils, and it's a huge win. I think it's the first win over a ranked opponent on the road since '71. Is that right? So
that is correct.
So it was nice to hear about something that was older than I was and somehow relevant. So kudos to Cutcliffe, and the Devils are going bowling again. So is it Belk Bowl 2, Swain? Where are the Devils heading, you think?
I'm hoping it's going to be somewhere else, because I'm not sure that I'm allowed back in the hotel in Charlotte after last year.
Now, is that pre or post bowl game?
That was post bowl game venting. A little bit of frustration might have been taken out on some windows.
Trash in the hotel room like a rock star.
How very rock star of you. Guys, can I bring this up and just get the panel's thought here? Do we agree that Duke is the best team in the Triangle this year?
Yes.
Right now, yeah. There's an argument with it.
No evidence to the contrary so far, right?
Brian's look was the best answer of the entire show.
Like, oh man, yes, they are. Jeez.
Is this blowing your mind, Ben?
No, it just doesn't even mean anything to be the best team in the triangle.
That's true.
Congratulations, King Nothing. There you go.
Exactly.
That's our second Metallica reference. Go ahead.
But hey, moving forward, can this Duke team continue to be that bowl program year in and year out? Like, what do they have to do to maintain this?
I think they can. I mean, their recruiting still isn't going through the roof. I mean, I know you follow it some, but they're getting slightly better players. But as they win and they say, look, we made back-to-back bowls, more and more kids are going to want to stay there, and they can start selling the education on top of a winning football program, as opposed to just selling the education and playing in the ACC.
I think the key thing for Duke that they've got in their favor is the fact that with respect to recruiting, some guys like, for example, Chuck Amato, he was good.
Apparently Chuck Amato did not want James to finish that statement.
He's frozen out. What do you mean, you people?
Oh, man. Chuck, sniping me.
Are you back?
Am I? I don't know.
Yes, you are back, James.
You mentioned Chuck Amato, and then you froze up.
Oh, the internet never forgets.
Happy Thanksgiving!
Yes. No, I was going to say
that... What do you mean Duke is good?
Chuck specialized at recruiting players that he knew and knew well, defense. Cutcliffe is a specialist with the most important position on the field, and as long as Cut continues this reputation that he has of putting players in the NFL at quarterback, you're going to have guys that probably would not have considered Duke were it not for Cutcliffe that would want to play quarterback for him. And if you can continue to get solid quarterback talent at Duke, that'll always give them, a fighting chance. They may not have a tremendous amount of other talented pieces around them, but if they can get, a Thad Lewis or a Boone or whoever around, what they've got, that gives them a shot. So, consistent bowl contender, I don't know, but they'll definitely be head and shoulders above where they were during the Franks, that dead era.
Yeah. Well, I think James makes a great point there, and it's the quarterback position. And guys, let's face it. I know we talk about the college ranks here, but Thad Lewis having the success that he's had in the NFL, that just helps. That helps David Cutcliffe. That look, I put this guy in the NFL, and I don't know if he's mentored any other quarterbacks. I don't know. Is that in the Duke yearbook at all, that he coached other quarterbacks at another university or someplace else?
Well, what's he do about Eli? What's he do about Eli Manning? Does he disown him at this point?
Yeah.
No. But what it does come down to, and for Duke, what they're going to start doing, guys, with winning these games and going to bowl games, especially if it's a down year for State or Carolina, guess what? Duke becomes attractive to go to now to kids in the state who would have never thought about going to Duke to play football.
Yeah, and to piggyback on Matt's point, I mean, I think probably some kids who may have considered Duke from an education standpoint maybe shied away from going there when they were struggling as mightily as they were. But, if they're 50-50 on the fence of maybe going to Duke and getting that kind of, high-level education or playing at, a State or a Carolina, and now they have a Cutcliffe in place who's got the program improved, that might be the tipping point to help them land some in-state kids that they might not have before.
So not to throw water on the fire here, guys, but how much does scheduling have to do with it? Because you look at, there's no Stanford on the schedule this year. There's no Alabama on the schedule this year. You've got 4 winnable non-conference games, and then you just have to go win 2 games out of a very average coastal division. Don't you guys think that has a lot to do with it?
Yeah, ask NC State about their non-conference this year, Ben. How'd that treat them? Those are their only wins. They can't win anything in the ACC this year. So scheduling is everything, but the SEC does it. I mean, yeah, if you're Duke, you need to get the bowl game, so schedule 4 teams that you can compete with and 2 or 3 that you think you can beat. I don't think anybody should have a problem with it.
Yeah,
it's baby steps, right? I mean, I think even Steve Logan has said this, that why would you schedule yourself to death when you can schedule games you can win and get some momentum, some success rolling, and then once you kind of establish yourself as you get there's an analogy. You think about Tiger Woods learned to win at every level before he got to the PGA. He didn't just start out. They didn't just throw him out there into the PGA, and he had to learn to win there. He won at every level. You got to win against the lower teams. You got to show you can beat the lower tier teams consistently, and then you kind of move up and you see if you can beat the better teams.
Yeah, and I think I raised this point on an earlier show that one of the problems that John Bunning faced at Carolina was that he got too aggressive with his scheduling, and he was always trying to play catch up when he got to the conference slate to get to those 6 wins that he needed for bowl eligibility. And when you're a team that's probably going to split 4-4 with your conference slate, if you drop 3 of your 4 non-conference games because you scheduled up, then all that does is just leave you at home minus those bowl practices that every coach values so highly.
Yeah. Speaking of weaker competition, let's move on here, guys, and talk a little bit about North Carolina and State. How sad is the state of this rivalry this year?
The state of the rivalry?
Is the state of rivalry NC State's state of the rivalry?
Our state of the rivalry.
It is their state, yes.
Just checking, because I won't claim anything I didn't mind.
All right, let me jump in on this with not having any colors or needing to get in your gang warfare on it. But this year, guys,
Maniscalco, we all know it.
It is what it is. That's fine, Curl. By the way, could you read the sign behind you? Because that's the more important question. Here we go. The big thing about this rivalry, though, this year is I don't think that there's the heat that's been on it the last couple of years. Because last year Carolina, they break the losing streak. State's having a dismal year. They're 0-4 in conference play. You've got Carolina that's dismal this year. I mean, there's really nothing at stake here other than the bragging rights between these two teams, as opposed to Tom O'Brien taking the rivalry seriously, and Butch Davis was just another game, and the two clash of cultures there. This year it seems it's 2 similar teams, but it's 2 similar middling teams that are playing each other. So it's big for the fan base. It will never be a small game for State fans or Carolina fans, but as far as the intrigue to the game itself, I mean, the loser of this game's in trouble. I don't know if they make a bowl game the loser of this game, but the winner of it, I mean, what do you accomplish? I mean, if you're State, okay, Carolina doesn't win 2 in a row. If you're Carolina, well, you beat a team that hasn't beat anybody in the ACC this year. So, I mean, it's just from the whole outside, there's not as much to this game as we've seen the last couple of years.
If State loses this game, there will be thousands of State fans who have to trash their "This is our state" yard signs, and that could be a tremendous cost to the local economy, and we don't want that.
But a great benefit as well, though.
Curing the urban blight.
I actually think Mike kind of countered himself in a way in the fact that the winner of this game, the teams have to win to pretty much make a bowl game. Carolina be 2-6, State be 3-5. And I think at least locally between the two schools, I think it adds some intrigue. It obviously has
Matt, let me jump in. Do you think anybody's really intrigued about going to the Independence Bowl?
I think for a second-year coach and a first-year coach, it's actually really important.
The Independence Bowl. Ask Everett Withers how important that bowl game was.
He was a lame duck, so then.
I would say the bowl season is important because you get that extra month that you can work out your younger players. You can get more. That's what the bowl is for a 6-6 team. It's an extra month of practice that you get for your guy. I mean, it's an extra few sessions you get for your younger players ahead of the spring. So that's the value of it. Going to Shreveport is that's awful. I mean, Carolina probably should consider self-imposing another bowl ban if that happens again.
But in the recruiting ranks, like you can sell that. Hey, we made for Doran. He could say, we made a bowl game in our first year in a rebuilding year. Fedora could say, look, we won 5 of our last 6 or whatever you want. However, and this we're on the rise. We're moving. We're going up. And a lot of people don't look at things like that, but it really does matter.
Matt, they won a championship last year. How can you say they're on the rise when they won the divisional championship last year? They got rings.
Into a kid's house, he's just thumping that ring on the table.
But guys,
you hear that? That's the sound of it.
There it is. That's the sound of a ring right there.
That made me really uncomfortable, Mike. But
Well, I'm looking at Purdy. What do you want me to do?
Oh,
I know.
wow.
Happens a lot.
But no, I mean, again, look, the 25 extra practices that you get, again, are great. But when we go overall, and you can try to sell me that, hey, we're going to 2 bowl games in a row. You know, the kids don't care about going to the Independence Bowl or going to the Bell Helicopter Bowl. If you're going to 2 Sugar Bowls in a row or 2 Orange Bowls in a row, that sells kids. But, you know, overall, you're not going to land, and we'll use the 2 running backs who got out of the state of Carolina and are down in Georgia. You think those kids were really excited about North Carolina going to 2 bowl games in a row, considering what they were? No. I mean,
Well,
But what about the swag, the bowl swag?
I was going
Mike?
to say the
That's
bowl
what-
swag, that
right?
$250 Best Buy gift card or
That's
whatever.
like saying
the
that's like-
$25 Belk gift card where you can get your Cam Newton outfit. Good for you. Get your tie. Get your bow tie on.
Well, Mike, if I can interject a David Glenn-like analogy here,
I would rather have David Glenn interject a David Glenn-like analogy.
The Tailgate Special from Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue.
It's 8 pieces of chicken, a pint of barbecue, any 2 sides, 2 dozen hush puppies, and a whole gallon of tea.
Just go to realtailgate.com for details, coupons, and a list of locations that open early on game day.
Let's move on to Hate Week and feed the rivalry by talking about North Carolina at NC State. Guys, how sad is the state of this rivalry right now?
Do you want like a numerical range, like on a?
Yeah, quantify it for me.
2 gallons of tears. That seems like a lot of crying, which I think a lot of folks on both sides have done. That's a good 2 gallons, 2 gallons of tears worth. It's bad.
So what happened? Why is this rivalry just not relevant this year?
Well, I think the records have a lot to do with it and the way both teams have played. I mean, State has Ofer for the ACC, and you know Carolina is a team. I know they're coming off of a win, but let's face it. I mean, what are they playing for? They're playing for the bragging rights. They're playing for James to needle his UNC cousin at Thanksgiving. That's what you're playing for right now.
We disowned him long ago.
Well, but he still shows up, and then you can ask him all sorts of questions. That's what it comes down to. I mean, this is all just for work and having to deal with the coworker you hate because he went to this school. I mean, that's what this rivalry is this year, where the last couple of years there was something to it. You know, State needed to get something pointed in the right direction with their program. Tom O'Brien did that. And, then last year Larry Fedora needed to get Carolina fans invested into his program, and he got the win. This year, the win's nice for both teams. It's bragging rights more than anything, but there's really nothing substantial on the line. There's no rings on the line this year, fellas, and I think that's why there's, to use the professional wrestling parlance, there ain't a lot of heat to this one this year, fellas.
We should get who's the guy, the ringside announcer for Monday Night Raw? Jim Ross. Is it Jim Ross?
Ross.
Yeah, man, he could really interject a lot of livelihood.
I don't think anybody can interject live. I mean, you talk about bragging rights. There's no
By
bragging.
God, that's Russell Wilson's music.
Oh, we're going to talk about Wisconsin.
2-yard line.
Are we going Big Ten now? Are we going to talk about some Big Ten football?
No.
The only interesting thing that's happened in NC State UNC this week is Robert Quinn sacking Russell Wilson in Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and it's due in I think large part to the fact that we don't have a coach anymore willing to engage in the sniping that has been a staple of this rivalry for the last half decade. Tom embraced it. I think it was because he came from a culture at Navy. Ooh, boy, I don't want to make that mistake. Where it was go Navy beat Army, and he came to State, and I think a part of him probably reveled in the fact that we had a really petty, pointless, neighborhood rivalry that he could latch onto and kind of channel from his days back as a plebe, and so the fact that he was able to drop triple plays on folks and all that stuff, that was probably the highlight of his year, as it was for a lot of State fans whenever we would read his comebacks. And man, there was nobody better at it than TOB. I don't know, when Virginia Tech and Virginia face off, are they just gonna shift Mike London over to the side and maybe put TOB in front of the camera and just let him drop some turkey references or something. I don't know. It would be nice. But Dorn has made it clear that he doesn't want to engage in, the trash talking, the whatever want to call it, and I think it's unfortunate. I miss it as a State fan.
I think it's actually a smart move on Dorn's part, as much as it's not fun for us. But he comes in, he hasn't really beaten anybody, worth getting excited for. And I don't recall Fedora really saying much last year in the rivalry, and it worked for him. But
he kept quoting how many days it was until they played State and such. So yeah, he was engaged with it because, of course, he was also looking at a 5-game losing streak, and the fans more than anything, they wanted to end that. So Dorn, maybe he's trying to feel his way in this a little bit, but if State loses, he's going to get tagged with he's just another Herb Sendek. He's not really engaging on the game that's really important to State fans.
Fedora didn't want to legitimize the program, right?
Whatever's that too.
Right, but the whole Sendek thing, I mean, what does that really matter? I mean, I don't understand why it's a big deal. I mean, other than for, like I said, for us, for him, he's trying to keep his team focused, trying to get that big first win. Granted, Carolina's 2-5, but it would still be a season-changing win, and I don't think he wants to go off running his mouth and then not deliver after having not delivered for the first 7 games.
Well,
Wait, hang on. Did I just hear beating a 2-5 team is a season-changing win?
For State this year, it would be, and that says, that speaks to the way the rivalry is right now.
Well, I think that just says that's why this game is the way it is. And I got to disagree with you, Matt, and I agree with James totally. I think that part of this, if you're going to get into a rivalry like this, you got to have the coaches chirp at each other. I mean, I know that Dave Dorn and that electric persona that he puts out in his press conferences, he doesn't want to give anything. He doesn't want bulletin board material. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with taking a jab, guys. It's college football. Why do we love Steve Spurrier quote so much? Because he's not afraid to jab. And I think that's what this rivalry needs. That is, if we were asking what's missing, Curl, you hit it out of the park, man. What's missing is there's no snide comment from the coaching staffs back and forth to each other about this thing. It's just, well, we know it's a big game. Well, no kidding, we know it's a big game in these parts, but make it a bigger game. Make it important. Make kids want to play for you as a coach in both sides of the rivalry.
Yeah, is that not as important as an NC State coach as being a good coach? I mean, the NC State fan base is fueled by that anger and that fire and that rivalry, and bringing a guy in to coach that team, don't you have to feed that?
Well, I was going to say it's an interesting dichotomy where you have State fans across the state placing yard signs in their yard that say, "This is our state," which is a very visible, bold. I can't make the gesture, but it's a middle finger to Carolina fans across the state as a way to say, yeah, you've called yourself the flagship and whatever. No, this is our state. Now we can debate the merits of whether or not that's a wise marketing decision.
That's not even debatable, anyway.
But
well, no, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome when ECU beats them both, and then they put out a big pirate going, "This is our state."
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, you have those yard signs, contrasted by Dave Dorn, who's doing about the complete polar opposite, which is this is nothing about our state. This is not about claiming our turf. This is just another game. Yeah, Matt, you're right. There's not much importance with this game beyond us, but really that's all that matters historically between these two teams. Is us is all we've had to really ever play for. I wish we've had some top 20 matchups between us and Carolina, but they just haven't been there.
20 years.
Yeah. Well, that's all we're fighting for. That's all we're playing for.
This is for James and Matt, though. And Brian, you can answer this if Fedora would have done it. If you come out this year after game 1 and ask your fan base to stick around and watch the game because you're going to demand more out of them, again, let's go back to what James said. Doesn't the fan base demand the coach hate Carolina as much as they do and not be afraid to throw a grenade into the backyard every now and again?
I don't think you can force it. I don't think we're asking Dorn to be fake about it or channel something that isn't there. I think what we want is, and I think we felt this way under Herb Sendek. Let's go ahead and throw that name out there. I think a lot of folks who knew Herb closely knew that he was not the robot that was placed in front of the TV cameras. He could actually loosen up when when he allowed himself to be that way. And I think that's all we wanted. We wanted Herb to show a human side, and I think we want to see that from Doran too. Is that we want to see recognition. He doesn't have to make up stupid stats or parade around the locker room with a I don't know, goofy sign that says beat the hell out of Carolina or whatever.
Yeah.
If that's not him, but find a part of your personality that embraces, competition and rivalry like that, channel that and focus that into this rivalry, because you're right, we don't want to hear necessarily that this is just another game. We heard that 10 years ago with a guy who's now coaching in Arizona State basketball.
And I think you do have a point with the whole, you need to get it talking to get a rivalry started. I mean, that's how great ones like Alabama, Auburn started off like that. Michigan and Ohio State, the coaches in the 60s and 70s were constantly going back at each other. So I do think that is something that is necessary to really get the rivalry going. I just don't know if that's what's on Doran's mind right now. I think his mind is keeping, for right or wrong, I think it's keeping his team focused on this game, this one particular game, not getting in a war of words, and I think that's just what his focus is. And yeah, I do think that the fans do deserve to kind of have Doran embrace the rivalry, especially like you said after the first game, after he said, come support us, we'll support you. So I do think that thought does have some merit.
But I think also the result of the game is going to dictate each fan base's or even the media's perception of how the approach was handled. If State wins, it's going to be, oh, State was businesslike. He kept him focused. What a great job. State loses, it's going to be, oh, wow, he doesn't care about the game. If Carolina wins, it's going to be, more trash talking. That's great. If they lose, it's well, Ebron should have kept his mouth shut. So some of this gets dictated by the result. Some of it we get to a hindsight thing with the result. Whoever wins the game, and then we start going back and looking at the approach and saying, well, it was this or it was that.
Yeah, but I mean, Matt did make a very good point, which is, you're in year one of your tenure at State. You've got a team that's obviously underperforming. You don't know how good Brandon Mitchell's going to perform after how poorly he looked at times in the Florida State game. You don't want to put a whole lot out there that can come back to bite you and be thrown back in your face. But give us a little something, give a little jab here or there might not be such a bad thing.
And keep in mind, before the season, everyone was giving Yao and Doran grief over saying, be patient with this, be patient with that. And I think they're kind of just keeping that mantra. They don't want to overpromise. And like I said,
but Matt at his press conference, he circled the North Carolina game when they introduced him. I mean, he made this an important game, and he. This week, and as you said, I think the way the season's gone has dictated everybody's attitude towards it. But he came in and he talked about the first game, and the most important game he's got to win is he knew the date when they were playing Carolina. That's what it boils down to. And look, I think this year there's so much air out of the balloon because of what we've had the last couple of years that it's a rivalry. It's a rivalry more for the fans this year than it is for the two sides, because the other part of this, guys, there's no animosity between Dave Doran and Larry Fedora because they haven't coached against each other yet. So maybe next year it'll be a little bit different.
So what do we need out of this game, right? Let's fast forward to the game. What do we need from this game that's going to spark that?
A man on fire, a man on a horse, and James Curl needs to kill a guy with a trident.
And then lay low for a little while.
And then, yeah, exactly. Go back camping.
Ebron needs to cheap shot one of our defensive backs and blow out his ACL. And
wow,
James, that was
wow.
I'm not hoping that happens. I'm just saying that would be what probably gets.
A fantastic controversial finish needs to happen in this game, where one side feels they got robbed.
And hopefully both teams actually play well, and it's not a 12 turnover game.
Just good fight during the warm-ups and get it over with. Fight over what part of the field they should be on.
Plant our state flags at midfield. And
is Fedora the type to pose underneath a scoreboard?
Probably not.
Shirtless. Shirtless he would.
Shirtless. with his smoking hot wife.
He can take a sledgehammer to our wolf statue that comes out of the tunnel there. And I don't know how many State fans would be all that heartbroken about it, but it's a cute statue.
So, guys, we talk about fans. We'll get to a last topic here. We talk about fans and getting people excited about football games. We saw the number 7 team in the country this weekend in Miami playing in front of about 10,000 fans at Sun Life Stadium. Is this kind of a sign that maybe the college football bubble is bursting a bit? Are we seeing some warning signs here?
No, that's just Miami.
Yeah, I was going to say, they don't go to any sports games other than the Heat.
I think it would be a more convincing argument if this was, maybe a more consistent, or a fan base that turned out more consistently over the years that were suddenly starting to dry up, like maybe a Virginia Tech. If suddenly, 2/3 of Lane Stadium if it was 2/3 full and you were starting to wonder why the corners weren't getting filled up for those night games that are so magical, then I think, it might be a little bit more of an indicative argument. I do think there's something to that, but I don't know that using Miami is exactly.
Well, I mean, we've seen empty seats at Neyland Stadium this year up at Tennessee. We've seen empty seats, obviously not a hotbed, but you see Virginia, and it's like all empty bleachers. Obviously here in the Triangle, you've got Wallace Wade and Wake and Keenan that are kind of well known for attendance issues, and then NC State with a halftime pass out. I don't think it's just Miami. I think you're seeing it everywhere that attendance is dropping.
How much of this is Joe Ovius' technology argument, where you've got the big screen at home and you've got Twitter and you've got all these niceties that make watching the game at home a better experience than watching it in the stadium? I
think it's that plus rising ticket prices.
Yeah, and
I'm not paying $200 to take my family of 4 or 5 to go to see State play Richmond when I can plunk $300 down and get a halfway decent TV for the bedroom and just lay on the bed and eat Oreos. And
I'm taking 2 of my girls to see the Carolina's exhibition game Friday night in basketball because it's $10 a head. Right. And that's a cheaper. No way I'm taking them. I can take 2 of them to go to a game regular season. It's going to be $35, $40, $50 ticket.
Yeah, and I think the game, the individual matchup makes a big difference. I was looking at. I kind of got into my Darren Ravel mode earlier today and was looking on StubHub to see what kind of ticket availability there was for the State Carolina game and what those ticket prices were going for. And there weren't a whole lot of tickets left, and the cheapest ones were like $90 a piece. And that's pretty solid. I think that's indicative of high demand for that game. But obviously, throughout the rest of the schedule, there were several hundred that were available, and you could get them as low as, $10, $20. So, the secondary market, I think, has played somewhat of a part of that. But, I think, honestly, if it was me trying to tackle this issue, I think you got to realize that, you've invested a lot of your efforts to increase your TV contracts through ESPN, ABC. You've got that money there. You can't double hit your customer base by also raising ticket prices. You got to bring those down or just stabilize them to the point where it's not a rising cost that's in addition to paying for a premium tier sports package. Or, like we've expected somewhere down the road, there's going to be an ACC network that we can, pay $5 a month for to add on to Time Warner Cable. It's a lot to ask of the consumer to invest more at home to watch games and then also invest more at the stadium itself.
Plus, the game day experience, guys, in the stadium isn't what it used to be, especially with the technology argument that's out there. I can get a cold beverage from my fridge. I don't have to stand in line behind some co-ed who clearly can't find what he's looking for while I've got, either my kid or myself having to go. And it's a time commitment, too. I mean, if you go to these games now, it's not like you're going to be at a game for 3 hours and then you're going to be home. I mean, it's an all-day event that you've got to put the investment in. So that's part of it. And plus, let's face it, the TV part of it does come in. You can see a better game on TV, and guess what? When it goes to a commercial, which it does every 5 minutes, you can flip around and watch some of the other games that are on. You can't do that when you're at the stadium. And the other part of it, too, the Miami thing, Ben, is kind of tough to put out there because they've always been front runners. But in the other places, I think the product that's on the field, who the opponent is, matters now. And that comes. Do you want to pay $90 to go see a 1AA team play your school? No, probably not. So I think that's part of that college environment. You're seeing it in the NFL too. I mean, they are selling out, but it's always coming down to, okay, we've extended the blackout wire for another 12 hours to get this game on TV locally. So I just think it's a big snowball effect, and let's face it, everybody likes to watch the game from their couch. It's a much better view, especially for football.
So is this the beginning of the end, or is this reversible?
No, I don't think it's the beginning of the end, guys, because still going and tailgating is part of it. And, if you went to, like, James and Matt and Brian, I mean, you guys always are going to want to go back and see one game. If you live in the area, you're going to want to go see one game of the school. But, I mean, when you say reversible, I don't think it's a trend where we're going to have to worry about is college football going to be dead and we're all playing in some kind of half-empty stadium. That won't happen, but the product matters too. I mean, look at Duke, Ben. They're starting to win, and more people are in Wallace-Wade. There's a correlation between the team that's on the field and the people that are in the stands. So that's a big part of it, and that'll always be a big part of it.
I do think if you're an administrator like a Debbie Yao or someone in her position, you have to take a serious pause before you start pulling the trigger on serious stadium expansion projects. We saw this at Maryland where, she felt it was critical for them to upgrade Byrd Stadium, add some, luxury seats and club seats and increase capacity. And it made sense at the time when Friedgen was winning 10 games a year. But suddenly he fell off, ticket demand fell off with it, and suddenly, there was a much larger Byrd Stadium that just looked much more empty than it was prior, and there was a ton of debt saddled with it. So I think, like I know state fans have been clamoring for years to get its stadium capacity up, maybe bowl in both ends or whatever. I don't know that you can do that now, or I don't know that you can do that without Doran turning this program into a decade-long top 20 program. I think state fans have a lot to be proud of with respect to the support that they show football. I think it's the best in the area, but at the same time, if ticket prices continue to go up, I don't know that you're going to see the same strength of season ticket purchases, or at least the increase in season ticket purchases that you would need to justify any kind of stadium expansion.
So, Brian, when UNC added the blue zone, was that geared towards increasing capacity, or was that geared towards the game day experience for high dollar donors?
I think that was more of a high dollar donor thing. I mean, I think in one respect, they wanted to close in the bowl and make it up, all the way around. But when they did that, they built the suites and they made it kind of, made it so there was places for the high rollers to go, and they could, because for them it's you can go watch the game, but you're also up there and you get your alcoholic beverages, you get your constant string of buffet and whatever. So I think that was more geared towards just bringing in high roller donor money than anything else.
Brian, who sits in those blue seats right there at the base of the goalpost, right along the field? Is that club? Excuse me. Is that high dollar seats as well, or are those for students or folks?
I mean, the students are generally in the turf pit, which is on the other end from the blue zone. That's where the students sit. I'm not completely familiar who exactly is sitting in all of those seats over there, but I would tend to think it's going to be for probably your higher end Rams Club members rather than. But it's also been a thing where you get more seat selection in Keenan than say you do in basketball. That stuff's like locked into lifetime rights. In Keenan, I think there's opportunity to shuffle your seating around every so often, and they do that.
Well, I wonder if perhaps Keenan faces a similar issue to what State faces at PNC, where in order to get the construction project done, a lot of those prime seats that are visible on television were sold to high dollar donors or local businesses who could afford, lifetime rights for those seats. And unfortunately, those seats don't get filled very often because, a lot of times if it's a high dollar donor, they're just wanting to go to the big games. And if it's a local business, they've probably got tickets that they're trying to get rid of at work or to their employees, and it's tough to, make sure that every ticket gets used. So, I saw a shot from, I guess, the Boston College game, and I know it's easy for State fans to pick on Keenan fan attendance, but it couldn't have looked good to see all that empty seatage there at the end in such a prime visible spot whenever they're kicking field goals into the blue zone there.
I can't think of a game since the blue zone went in that I've seen it completely full, and I would have to check, but I don't know they ever completely sold all of those seats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, I'd have to look that up, but I can't think of a game I've seen on TV where it was, wow, look, the blue zone's finally full. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a complicated metric that says, okay, if we charge X dollars for this ticket and can get this many people in the door, that maximizes. It's all that math stuff that I never learned as an English major at State.
Yeah.
Economics and
right,
marketing
calculus.
and profit
Counting.
generation.
Counting.
Yeah. Right.
Not accounting, just counting.
Counting.
But I mean, I think at some point you have to move away from strictly looking at the dollar amount and say, okay, is it better, if we maximize revenue by having 2/3 of a stadium full at $50 a ticket, or can we drive up demand by cutting ticket prices in half? Yeah, we lose a few bucks per game, and I know it's not a few bucks; it's a lot of money. But at what point is it not worth having a half-empty stadium just because we were able to make a little bit more money selling tickets at $50 a pop?
I mean, that was NC State's conundrum with going to PNC versus building their own 12,000 seat arena closer to campus, right? I mean, they could have done that, and they would have had a fuller house most of the time, and it would have been probably a more raucous arena. But instead, they went in with the with the what is it, the entertainment? I forget what it's called now. The arena that's now PNC, and it's sometimes it's not full, and sometimes it's just not a good deal for NC State.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks better on television when those seats are filled, but that the decision is, is it better to have a full stadium that's rocking and rolling because tickets are, less expensive or more affordable for families who, might not come to games if they were more expensive, or is it better just to maximize revenue and ensure the financial stability of your program?
I think
the athletic department will always tell you maximize the finances, fellas.
Yeah.
Well, the simple answer is we need to get more people at football games so that they buy Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue, so that our sponsor stays alive and well, right, guys?
Remember, it's not a tailgate without the barbecue. Just log on to realtailgate.com for locations and special offers near you.
That's a professional right there, guys. Hey, let's do some party shots here. Matt Purdy, what do you got for us?
To piggyback on your Smithfield's thing, let's keep the flagship alive. To tie it in with the rivalry there, as TOB once famously said.
So you're cheering for Carolina?
No. I'm just making a metaphor here.
Right,
Who's the flagship in this metaphor?
Smithfield's.
Oh, okay, all right.
James Crow, what do you got for us?
I just want to shamelessly plug my sign again, in case you missed it all the other times. Got me on television. I'm rather proud of it. That's why I've kept it all these years. Yeah, I don't know. Go State, hashtag. I actually think, I think State's going to win the game. I think it's because there's a potential for weather, and if God rains his palm sweat upon the football, then Bryn Renner will have a hard time holding it and throwing it, and State will run the ball better. I don't know. I just jinxed it, but go State.
Brian, does Eric Ebron get his 9 touchdowns that he needs this weekend for 12?
It is a bit of a mystery why he hasn't done more than but I think Bug Howard has as many touchdown receptions as Eric Ebron does. No, I mean, I'm really hoping that he at least backs up his talk this week with something along the lines of what he did in the Miami game. Otherwise, it's going to, it's going to be brutal for him and the garbage they're going to give him afterwards. But yeah, I have no expectations for the game this weekend because I think it's just two teams that are a hot mess in a lot of areas, and it's probably going to come down to weird stuff like turnovers and weather and whatnot.
I like how Ebron takes this game to Twitter like he did before the East Carolina game. That worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Maniscalco.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie PCU, but I'm very tempted to drop the David Spade line about the hippie Olympics about it doesn't matter who wins because we're all losers this weekend.
If NC State allows Ebron to get as open as he was in the Miami game, we all lose, I think, is at least from an NC State perspective.
At least there'll be good comments afterwards that we can all debate about. And I thought if it rains, that's God preventing State from winning because I thought that's everything that goes against NC State.
No, he's providing palm sweat on the ball. It's all about palm sweat levels.
Ask us after we fumble, and then we'll tell you.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you very much to all of our guests. Thank you to our technical producer, Talking Moose Media. Thank you extremely very much to Google for having incredible servers and bandwidth and all that kind of stuff. Thank you to our sponsor, Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue, reminding that it's just not a tailgate without the barbecue. We'll see you next week, guys.
The Tailgate Special from Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue.
It's 8 pieces of chicken, a pint of barbecue, any 2 sides, 2 dozen hush puppies, and a whole gallon of tea.
Just go to realtailgate.com for details, coupons, and a list of locations that open early on game day.
TheMesh.tv, an online network of original free audio and video shows based out of Western North Carolina, reaching the entire world. Listen and watch through iTunes or through the website themesh.tv.